This is Ezra Scott. Meet me halfway on your block. And I am guiding you through the mental health healing steps. And these are the beginning steps. And my videos are for education and entertainment purposes only. Now, as we dive into the second stage of the beginning stages of healing, we were dealing with analyze. And when we analyze, what we are analyzing will be broken down into steps. We're going to learn, study, and examine. We're learning our pain. We're studying our pain. We are examining our pain. We learn our thoughts. We study our thoughts. We examine our thoughts. We learn our actions and beliefs. We study our actions and beliefs. We study our vocabulary. We examine our vocabulary. We examine our actions and beliefs, and we examine our thoughts. So we also examine our pain. We study our pain. We learn our pain. Now with analyzing, we're going to analyze the source of the pain. Now with that being said, to begin to reflect on what shaped you is not to relieve it, but to understand it. Okay? Now, we're understanding now that a lot of our trauma, early trauma, comes from early childhood or teenage trauma. That's the early stages of trauma. Now, this is what shapes our relationships with other people. It also influences who we are drawn to and what we tolerate. Okay? So, when we have trauma, we begin to shape the experience that forms into thoughts. We believe the experience that we shaped with the relationships of the people we have chose to be drawn to and what we tolerate from them. Okay? Now, we express our needs in a certain way, and it's mainly through pain. And through the process of healing, we will be able to relieve that pain. The cycles that feel familiar, we repeat. We repeat it because it feels like home, even though home is filled with pain. So we are breaking this chain of early childhood trauma and teenage trauma because we've come to realize and we've analyzing the relationships that we have with certain people. If you don't have a relationship with them, that also is a priority of what we shaped out of our thoughts and beliefs. What we tolerate. Now, that is one of the biggest things that is an overcoming achievement when you begin to tolerate only what is necessary that add value, strength, and challenge you. You tolerate the relationships with people only because of trauma. As we begin to analyze the source of our pain, we start to connect the dots between the past trauma and the current behaviors, okay? You notice how your childhood or your toxic environments molded your self-worth. You understand your reactions, how you are shutting down, how you're angry, detachments. It's all our responses to your past. Okay? So the way that you act, react, the way that you think in your vocabulary has all been formed from the influence of the experience from childhood and teenage earlyhood trauma. We want to not have repeated cycles of the familiar patterns. We want to build new patterns. We want to make new memories. We want to be familiar with new things because we are understanding our pain to begin to get a relief. It's not an instant relief, but we begin to understand our pain. We begin to understand the relationships, what we tolerate, and our influence. That's what guides us. Do you have enough space versus energy in your life? Now, space could be also determined as time, a time frame. Do you have enough time frames in your life to use your energy? Now we're talking about, do you have enough space for your energy, okay? And I call it space poverty. I'm piggybacking off of a MD called Stephen Ratchenschafin. He was an MD, did lots of work. I studied under him through a lot of his books. And I've come to realize that my interpretation is space poverty. That's when you lack the space versus the energy that you have to use. In other words, people lack the time that they're utilizing to better themselves in healing. So I use space poverty. I call it space poverty, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to eliminate space poverty. We're going to make sure we have a safe space that is for a non-judging zone that we use to help our mental health heal. Now, a lot of people lack space poverty because they try to go faster and do more, and they never get to experience life. Now, this leads to psychological mental stress, depression, bipolar. Those are the examples. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use our space and shift our energy. So all the energy that was utilized to drain us, to make us mentally ill, to make us physically ill, we're going to shift that energy and use it in the space that we allowed ourselves, the safe space where the no judging zone is, the me, myself, and I support system. Now, this technique helped demonstrate that our experience of space is always under your control. It's about slowing down and focusing on one thing at a time. Okay?